about overdriven. Holy crap. I overdrove the hell out of that song. Well, let's see. I'm going to be real curious, just because I wasn't watching my levels. I'm going to be real curious to see, in retrospect, whether or not that comes out way too hot. Wow. Okay. Tonight, right now, Clint and BZ are going to tear through the gristle of today's screaming headlines and rip out the sinewy tendons of truth ensconced within. All from the hoary streets of Sacramento, Fornicalia, where we're exposing the trembling toadies, the sniveling jackanapes, and the fripperous fopdoodles infesting leftist and progressive brain-housing groups nationally. Over in that corner, let's see, am I pointing properly? Yes, I am. Over in that corner, we're featuring the effervescent contrarian, Sackhead's Clint.
I like that name.
You're the effervescent.
Effervescent.
Every time I
effervescent
I read
contrarian.
This, that's my intro. That's what I'm saying.
I know it's the contrarian. I don't know that I've ever heard of the effervescent contrarian.
I liked that. You are the effervescent contrarian, Sackhead's Clint. And let's see, what am I? I have the unrestrained bulbosity of the Zeppmeister. Here, I'm going to have to move my microphone over here just a little bit so I can see you.
So
that's the only thing about this is, folks, when you're watching on... when you're...
There's so much shit in the way.
I know. You can watch... Well, first, you can listen to the show at shrmedia.com. I'm in the chat room. I'm lonely in the chat room.
Are you? Hang on, let me jump in. Who should I be tonight? 'Cause last week I was Inigo Montoya.
Oh gosh, you want to be General? You want to be General Ripper?
I'm gonna be General Jackassery tonight.
Or you can be General Buck Turgidson.
Buck Turgidson.
Yeah, General Buck Turgidson. Listen, one of my all-time favorite movies, folks, if you don't know this, one of my all-time favorite movies is Dr. Strangelove. I love the hell out of The Good Doctor. As a matter of fact, that's Dr. Strangelove is what I close my BZ show with, because Peter Sellers starts out with Mein Führer, Heikenwach. And then it turns into Vera Lynn, We'll Meet Again by Vera Lynn. And that's how I end the show. And that's all. Those are all cuts directly from Dr. Strangelove. God, Peter Sellers was in 3 roles in Dr. Strangelove. General Buck Turgidson was George C. Scott. And General Ripper was in charge of Burpelson Air Force Base. I love all that stuff. Slim Pickens. Slim Pickens was the B-52 pilot in there. In his first role ever, this is a little teeny thing that a lot of people don't know about Dr. Strangelove. In his who's the classic black actor that has
Samuel L. Jackson,
that has the extremely low voice and does voiceovers?
Samuel L. Jackson?
No.
Or no. The one who was the guy who was Darth Vader?
Yes. And for whatever reason,
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones.
Yes, Field of Dreams.
This was his first movie ever for James Earl Jones. He played a flight engineer or a systems operator down on the second floor of a B-52. His very, 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 very first movie role. I think that was 1965. The script was by Terry Southern, and it was taken from a novel that I had at one time, and then who knows what the hell happened to it, called Red Alert. So if you think that Dr. Strangelove was created out of whole cloth, no, basically what they did is they took an extremely serious book called Red Alert, and then tinked with the script a little bit. And it turns out to be one of the finest black comedies ever created on the face of the earth.
Okay.
And Stanley Kubrick directed. That was one of his first movies. I think his very first movie was Paths of Glory with Kirk Douglas. Kirk the Chin Douglas. Okay.
So now, speaking of B-52 and old novels and old movies, have you read the book Dale Brown, Flight of the Old Dog?
No, but I met him.
The old dog?
No, I met Dale Brown.
Dale Brown. Okay. Have you ever read any of his books?
Yeah, I read probably 3 or 4 of his first books. There's a little town east of Sacramento, folks, called Folsom, California, and Dale Brown was married to a deputy on my department, and I don't think they're married anymore. I think they divorced. But in any event, I went to sort of a cop meet and greet in Folsom and met Dale Brown. And at the time, see, Dale Brown used to be a flight engineer on a B-52. And no, I'm sorry, wrong. I
thought he was a pilot.
He was a navigator. I'm sorry, my mistake. He was a navigator. And we have in east of Sacramento another Air Force base, which is now deactivated.
Mather.
Thanks to Clinton, deactivated in 1995.
Deactivated both of our bases.
Yes, deactivated McClellan Air Force Base.
Yep,
and deactivated Mather Air Force Base in a massive fucking riff, courtesy of President Clinton. By the way, a riff, folks, is a reduction in force.
Mm-hmm.
And so he killed 2 of our local bases here. And let's see, North Highlands went tits up.
Yep.
And
Rancho
Cordova kind of went tits up for a while, but it came back.
A little bit-ish.
And then they turned into a city.
North Highlands has not recovered.
North Highlands is a shadow of its former self.
Yeah.
But basically, both of them were civilianized. In any event, Mather Air Force Base, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, used to be the place where, if you were in the Air Force, you would go to the navigator school at Mather Air Force Base. And that's where my dad trained for a while in World War II.
I think didn't they have B-52s there as well?
Oh, at Mather? Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, because
those runways are huge.
Oh, it's a... God, I get these 2 facts mixed up. It's about an 11,000-foot runway, and I can remember distinctly my dad telling me that when they poured that runway, it was also one of the thickest ever poured. It's about 8 or 9 feet thick, that entire runway. Because at the time that they created that field, they had no idea what kind of planes were going to be in the future. Mm-hmm. And so it's just... That leads into a story about the XB-70, which leads into a story about General LeMay, which leads into a story about the Secretary of Defense. There's a whole different host of places that I could take this right now. Oh, God. Okay, first let me ask you this.
So, Flight of the Old Dog.
Okay.
If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it.
I met him. He was a little cherub. He was a round, little fuzzy butterball with long hair at the time.
Looks like BZ.
No. He was, well, no. He would be about my age now. Yeah, he would be in his 30s. Okay, I'm a lying sack of crap. Oh, hey, welcome to Michael John Pasqua in chat. Welcome to the Alaskan in chat. And welcome to the evil capitalist scum in chat. Capitalist scum.
That's me.
You must die.
I'm the capitalist scum tonight.
So tell us a Dale Brown story.
I don't have a Dale Brown story. I literally was asking.
Or did you just pick up his new book? Does he have a new book out?
No, it's an old book. The book came out in
his very first book. Just off the top of my head was called Flight of the Old Dog.
That's the one I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
I just asked if you read Flight of the Old Dog.
Yeah, I'm talking
you said
about
you
Flight
read
of
some
the Old Dog
stuff.
Here. Hey, I'm talking here.
It's a good book. Look, it's about a crew that basically re-weaponizes a B-52, and they fly it into the Soviet Union on a secret mission, and it's a pretty good book. And I think this is where we first meet one of his signature characters.
Now, the character, the protagonist in his books I cannot for the life of me remember, because it's been at least 10 years since I've read anything by Dale
So if
Brown.
you haven't, that'd be a book that I would see. I mean, you couldn't do it today, but back then that would have been a great movie.
Okay, trivia since we went here.
Oh,
What the
okay,
hell?
trivia.
Trivia about the B-52.
Okay,
The first B-52 was
not the music group.
Was what kind of cockpit?
What do you mean?
What variety of cockpit was the original B-52? Do you remember the B-47? What the B-47
Not
looked
the
like?
Strato,
The
the Strato Fortress or whatever.
Stratofortress is the B-52. There was one.
No, oh gosh,
The B-47. Let me
I
give
don't
you a clue
remember.
this way. The
Okay.
B-47 was 6 engines,
okay,
and obviously the B-52 is 8.
8.
The first version
Was it a single cockpit?
of the B-52 was a B-47 like canopy that had a tandem cockpit. It looked like a B-47 on massive damn steroids.
Huh.
Because the B-47 had the pilot in the front, and then actually there was a co-pilot, engineer, etc., who didn't sit directly behind. He sat behind and below the pilot. But the B-52, the first cockpit variation of it, was a tandem cockpit. It's the weirdest ass looking huge damn plane you ever saw. Again, trivia. What year did that plane, the B-52, have its blueprints drawn?
Oh,
I'm gonna
guess.
You're gonna. This
This
is
is a
incredible.
wag. This is a wild ass guess. I'm gonna say 1947.
48.
Ooh, I was close.
You are damn close, folks.
Close.
Now, not this 19. Okay, in 17, it had its no, that's right. In 17, I believe it had its 50-year anniversary of flight. So if you have sons or daughters in the Air Force, and any of them are either flying in, flying, working around the B-52, they're working on material that could be, I mean, all the old ones are gone now. I think all they've got left is the B-52H. I think even all the G's are gone.
Are they?
But they're working on things that could possibly, there could be parts on those things that are 50 years old.
And they're going to continue. I believe they projected
And
service into like.
They're going to continue with the B-52.
Look, that just shows you the capability of that
What an
aircraft.
What an airframe.
Okay, so
Jesus, what a testimony to that airplane and the designers at Boeing with guys in little white short sleeve shirts with black ties, thick glasses, pocket or pen holders right here, and
it's American ingenuity. Let's call it what it is.
God. And no calculators, no LED calculators. They had the slide, the Mark I Model 1 slide rule to figure all that stuff out. It's just incredible. Alaskan says the B-52 is older than its crews. The B-52 is older than all of their crews. Anybody that walks underneath them, around them, on top of them, services them, repairs them, flies them. Oh my God, what an incredible airframe. What an incredible testimony to Boeing.
I was going to say to American engineering. But
To American engineering. Well,
we could
here's
say Boeing too.
Here's another thing. The greatest, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn because I don't have a security clearance anymore, but I'm not speaking out of turn when people say, "Oh, Aurora." There is an Aurora project. There is, I think they've renamed it now the SR-72. There is an SR-72 project. The first iteration of what became the SR-71 that President Johnson screwed up, because it actually is supposed to be RS-71. But when President Johnson in 1965 announced the SR-71, instead of reading from the script and saying, the RS-71, he screwed that up and said it was the SR-71. And from that point on, well, it stuck.
Because the president said it.
Because the president said the SR-71.
And we can't make him look like an ass.
But the first iteration of the SR-71, which was the A-12, the YF-12A, was a single pilot aircraft, and that is an incredible testimony to American ingenuity. They had to figure everything out. It's like going to the moon and trying to figure out everything, because you have to back everything up. Let's see. We have to build a factory that's going to build the planes. No, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to build a factory to build the tools that are going to build the plane. And one of the most remarkable things ever is that we pulled off a major coup with regard to Russia. How did we do that with regards to the SR-71?
They couldn't catch it.
Well, that's true, too.
They couldn't shoot it down.
Where did we get all of the titanium for the SR-71?
Did we get it from Russia?
Russia. We went in under any number of different shell companies, bought an assload of titanium from Russia. And titanium, well, that's the other thing. In order to bend titanium, you have to have entirely different presses, factories, anything that you use to fabricate titanium. I mean, it's extremely critical. The SR-71, folks, if you don't know about the SR-71, I mean, they had to figure out, because it was, those things ran at, some of the leading edges on that thing were over 2,000 degrees. The pilots, when it was at speed, if a pilot put a gloved finger, because, you had to wear flight suits, and they had to be completely pressurized because the cockpit itself was not pressurized. You had to wear basically an astronaut suit in the SR-71.
Well, it would fly. They could actually see the curvature of the Earth. They were flying so high. They were that high. They were that high.
If I could get this guy, God. You told me at one time, and I played it on my show. You told me about, God, what's this? And I can't think of this guy's name. He was an SR-71 pilot. He lives in Chico. He's a photographer. He's got a studio there. He gave a wonder. He's given a series of TED Talks. And he has the thing called the LA Speed Check or something like that I played. Brian, I can't think of the guy's name. Brian. That might even be worth playing, LA Speed Check. In any event, Brian Shull, S-H-U-L. Thank you, Brain. Pulled that out of my butt. Brian Shull, I'd love to have him on this show, since he just lives in Chico, and Chico is not that terribly far away. The only thing I found out is that I have not contacted him personally, but I wanted to have him speak at one of the sheriff's department's graduations, and he charges about $1,500 to speak. Damn it, Jim. Anyway, the SR-71 research.
Hopefully he wouldn't charge to speak here on this show.
Because we could give him. I could give him a parking spot in front of the studio. Look, Brian, it's a parking spot.
I could bring him something to drink.
That's free. Speaking of drink.
Well, what's funny is we charge $1,500 to park in our studio parking lot. So
it's true. It's true. So thanks once again to Sackheads Clint.
You're welcome. My
for
pleasure.
Providing me with my poison,
my pressure,
my studio poison, which is Diet Pepsi, not my regular poison, which is Kettle One vodka, which I don't drink here, by the way.
Which is unfortunate because you should.
Life is too short for cheap vodka. Is there a Clint story?
No, there's not a Clint story. There's a local story I want to talk about though.
Okay.
Before I actually get in a little bit of content here before the break. So I was in a shop getting my vehicle fixed. So I found out that my moon roof, it's not a sunroof, it's a moon roof. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. My moon roof is leaking a little bit. So we had those big storms, and I found this leak
sad.
when coming back from Oregon.
You probably have a leather interior.
So I do know with kids, absolutely not.
Okay. All right. Good point. Good damn point.
So I was coming back from Oregon, driving through the I-5 and coming southbound through Shasta and up by Mount Shasta and stuff. There was a horrendous snowstorm. If you remember when that big storm came through, kind of that first week of January.
Oh, okay. All right. How's Shasta look?
I couldn't see it. So it was snowing so hard, I literally could not see it.
Okay.
But coming back through the mountains, we drove up 101 up the coast to go out there, and it was absolutely beautiful. Beautiful driving.
You took 101 all the way to Oregon?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I've never driven the coast. Up the Oregon coast, the northern part of the state, and then up into the Oregon coast. I wanted to see it, so did a drive, and I'll tell you, it was so beautiful that even the kids in the car weren't. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there? They actually enjoyed the ride.
Did you actually end up going through Bandon?
Probably, I don't remember. We were very.
Were you on the coast?
We were on the coast
in Oregon.
All the way.
You might have gone past.
Well, so we passed. We did because we actually went up along the coast into Seaside.
Oh, that's from Seaside. That's from last week. Okay.
And then from Seaside, we actually went up towards Astoria, right there on the Washington State-Oregon border, the Columbia River that comes down.
Okay, and you went across the bridge, right?
We didn't go into Washington.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No, I wasn't going to do that. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But I actually saw the fort that was shelled by the Japanese submarine. I think it was the I-25.
Oh, okay.
So the only attack on week. The only attack on U.S. soil in World War II, like mainland. But so coming back, I'm making this story longer, and I actually do have a topic to get to. So coming back, it was snow. So I couldn't even see. I'm surprised I didn't have to wear chains. I had the 4-wheel drive going, and it was about 20 miles per hour at the most, just to kind of keep rolling traction.
And you're in California now. You're in Shasta.
Yeah. So it was snowing in Oregon coming back, but coming through Shasta, it was horrible. It was the worst. And
are you on I-5?
I was on I-5.
Okay.
Coming in, and then after the snowstorm, it was rain. It was raining so hard, sheets of water, very difficult to see. But by the time I got home, I realized that in the headliner, I had this wet spot. And it wasn't soaked, so it's not a big leak, but because there was a lot of water and we were driving a long way, obviously. So I had to, air it out and dry it and all that other stuff. But I was looking, and fortunately, I read the report on the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. And I know that rubber is not pliable when it's frozen, particularly when it's cold.
Okay.
So
right. From the seals.
Yes. So I was looking at the seal, and on the one side of my moon roof, the rubber was not pliable. And my car it's a 2015.
Okay.
So it's not brand new, but it's not incredibly old.
No.
But I think what happened.
Be good on that.
I think what happened is that seal there was no pliability at all because the temperatures coming over Shasta was so cold. And then we immediately hit that rain that I think that it didn't have an opportunity to seal. So to make a long story longer, I guess I do have a story.
See, I knew you had a story.
I'm waiting because now my mechanic won't fix that because that's like almost a body issue. So I actually have to go to the fucking dealership for it because they have to check the whole thing. No, my mechanic wouldn't touch a moonroof because especially replacing a seal or if the whole motor had to be replaced.
Oh, okay.
Well, he didn't know what had to be done on it. So I'm sitting at the dealership because I actually want it done right.
As well you should.
And I see this local newspaper, and I'm looking at this local newspaper, and there's a story. Local shop sells Nazi memorabilia, people in an uproar. I'm like, what is this about? Okay. So up in our local area here, up in Roseville, which is a town just north and maybe a little bit east of us, is a town called Roseville. And there's something called the Antique Trove. It's a place where there are a lot of independent antique vendors sell.
Is that the place where you can see right off Interstate 80?
Yes. Okay. Yes,
I know where it is.
Yep.
I know which one you're talking about.
And they sell the cool stuff. Antique place, a big antique mall.
Sure.
Well, there's a couple vendors in there that sell, and they have on display for sale original World War II memorabilia.
Right.
Some of this is in fact German.
Okay.
So you have the swastika pendants. You may have some German medals, some military memorabilia. There is memorabilia in there. And people were upset that this memorabilia is on display. And so I'm reading this article, and on one hand, I understand people being upset if memorabilia is displayed like honoring whatever that symbol is. Right? That to me is different if the store was displaying a big Nazi party flag with the swastika in like a prominent place of honor. That's one thing. But this is a store, an antique vendor, two of them, I believe, if I'm recalling the story correctly, that sells memorabilia, and it's displayed with everything else. It's not in a position of honor or anything like that, but they sell memorabilia from World War II, U.S., Nazi, so they have it with everything else. It's not like it's spotlighted, showcased.
Right.
We believe this,
and it's not as if it's being promoted.
Right.
It simply exists.
Correct. It's simply there for people who are history buffs, collectors, those sorts of things. And there was such a community outrage, and there's some people were saying, hey, it's history, like they're selling it. The antique trove issued a statement saying, hey, they're selling history. You know, we're very sympathetic to the Jewish situation in World War II and that sort of thing. And even the owners gave a statement from one of the booths and said, hey, we're very sympathetic to Jews. We're selling history, you know, so that people remember what happened. We're not honoring it. But there was still one of the Jewish leaders in the community was up in arms. It shouldn't even be displayed. There were members of the community saying people shouldn't be allowed to sell that. And I got to thinking, in particular, and I know we're going to get to this here in a little bit, but particularly in light of, you know, President Trump in his State of the Union had the World War II vets there and the survivor of the concentration camp and so forth. And we need to remember our history. And so to have somebody, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, to have somebody and these members of the community get upset because people are selling a piece of history, and they're selling a piece of history so people can remember, so people can have a piece of history. You have people like me that I genuinely just love history. I recently purchased a transcript page.
You and I definitely have that in common.
We do, BZ.
We both revere history.
You know, I purchased a piece of like a page. It's literally about this big, and that's it. And it's about half of it is written on it. It's from the 13th century, and it's written in Latin, and it's one page of a prayer book. It's on vellum. So I have that. Now, does that mean that it just means it's a piece of history, and I think it's something that's needs to be preserved, not honored or anything like that, but just preserved. And when it comes to Nazi memorabilia, that stuff I believe needs to be preserved, not because I want to honor them, because I don't. I think they're a bunch of freaking dirtbags. But if we don't preserve that history and understand that history, we will repeat that history. I mean, that's been shown time and time again. So to have, first of all, to have a member of the public say, "Well, you shouldn't be allowed to sell that because I don't like it," it was very off-putting to me. To have the members of the Jewish church, and granted, I'm not Jewish. I'm not going to pretend to understand what the Holocaust survivors went through, because I couldn't even imagine what they went through. But even to have somebody from the Jewish community not understand its importance from a historical perspective and want it just not even brought into sight because it evokes feelings of whatever, I think that we're at a point in our society where people are perpetually offended. If they see something they don't like, it hurts their feelings and it should immediately be forced to go away. And I'm not saying that a swastika, if somebody's hanging a swastika from their front of the house, that is obviously meant to send a message. And that's a different story. I can understand somebody taking offense at that person doing that. but something where a store, particularly an antique store,
That's their
job, and they're selling.
That's their job.
They're
yes.
selling history, not to glorify that particular group or event, but just simply selling history for the sake of history. For people to be offended by that, I find troubling.
Okay, hold that thought. I don't want to get rid of that. We're going to continue with this because it's like just for a moment you were in my head. Now that you went there, I discovered I actually found the story today, but I think it's been around for almost a week now. A very troubling story in a very similar vein of that. So, folks, we're going to take a break, about 5 minutes. You're going to hear some of our wonderful co-local type shows here. When we come back with Sackheads Clint and Sackheads BZ, we're going to continue on this thread, and I have a story to regale everyone, which I found, if you thought that story, and we're going to continue with Sackhead Clint's story, but I've also got an adjunct story that is I think equally every bit as disturbing as that.
And we are going to get to State of the Union.
And oh yeah,
for sure.
Oh gosh, yes. And there's so much other stuff to talk about. So you're listening to the Sackheads Against Tyranny. That's Sackheads Clint. I'm Sackheads BZ, and we'll be right back. Thanks for listening.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplains.talkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny, and we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
S-H-A-T.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. You know, we talked about this for a good for the last 3 years, and finally coming to fruition.
You know, I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Sing us a jaunty tune. Sing us a jaunty tune. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is the Sackheads Against Tyranny show. I'm Sackheads BZ. Over yonder, let me see, over yonder, this way. Oh, no, this way. Get your hand back there. Okay.
I'm right.
This way is Sackheads Clint.
That's
right
me.
There.
That's me.
And that's over on the right-hand side of your screen, which is that side of your screen, is Sackhead's Clint over there. Mm-hmm. And then I
on the left side of your screen, right?
Right.
This
Correct.
way. This way.
IB Sackhead
is BZ. Right.
Over here. Oh, Kaiser
No,
Schuff.
over there.
Over there. Over
Yeah,
there.
over there.
Over there. Tell the world. I should know the words, but I don't.
You should, but you don't.
Okay, let's go back to what you were talking about. Sackheads Clint was talking earlier about how an antique store was catching crap because it was selling Nazi memorabilia. Now I don't know what kind of pieces, but essentially
one was like it was like a small party flag. There was an SS armband.
Okay.
They had some German World War II uniform accoutrements.
Yes.
You like that?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Accoutrements. When you do that, I think you have to put your fingers together like this, don't you? And kind of shake it like that and go, accoutrement.
Or I have to wave the battle flag, which is all white. What?
Hey, I have to be honest. BZ has Nazi memorabilia. I have an artist's oil of Adolf Galland. I have an original artist's piece.
Wow.
Of Adolf Galland. And then Dad brought back 2 pieces of Nazi actual. He found the crap and from, across the pond and brought it back. Mm-hmm. I've got a sort of a common Nazi's dagger. And I've also, he brought back a Nazi stamped, I showed it to you. Did I? Didn't I bring it in to show you? Okay, I'll bring it in next week.
Okay.
It's a Walther PPK 380 with an actual Nazi stamp on it. Dink.
Yeah.
And the Nazi stamp on the holster as well. Mm-hmm. And the dagger is probably, I don't know, like about this. Pretty long tang on it. And on the blade it says Deutschland über alles. So I have some stuff, and that's historical. To me, that's important. That's stuff my dad got from having he flew B-17s in World War II, passed away in 2009, which is weird. What is today? 6th. Okay, I'm going to inject this real quick. In 5 days, it will be the 10th anniversary of my dad's passing in 2009. I can remember it. We got the call at 3:30 in the morning. Your father passed away, and it was a terrible, terrible day. It was February 11th of 2009. He lived to be 88 years old. He lived longer than Mom. Mom passed away in 2002. She was 80 years old. She had COPD. Dad was just a tough son of a bitch. He went through 5 invasive surgeries because he initially had thoracic cancer, colon cancer. His tumor was the size of your fist. For a while, we were calling him the little Biafran baby because he was losing weight, but his stomach had a massive bulge in it. It was the damn tumor. Anyway, this antique mall in Roseville caught crap because they were selling Nazi memorabilia. As Clint indicated, they weren't featuring it.
Right.
They weren't promoting it. They weren't hyping it. It's a piece of history, and it's in an antique mall, and that's what they do. They sell antiques which are old.
Yes. And it's pieces of history and blah, 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 whatever, right?
And so the local folks were not happy.
Some weren't happy, and the Jewish community had to speak out. And the thing, the owners of one, I can't speak for the second because they're individually leased out stalls within this mall.
Right, like a whole lot of malls do that exact same thing.
And there were two that actually were selling the memorabilia. One, because of the pressure, actually issued an apology and pulled the memorabilia. And I thought,
that's today.
That's today. That upset me. Instead of and the owners tried to do the right thing and say, hey, look, we're not advocating any, we're not selling this stuff. We our hearts are with but we're selling history, and that's not good enough. And on one hand, they're trying to argue, well, it makes, when people see that, it evokes certain emotions. Yeah, I get that. But on one hand, I can see how, yes, that's a reminder of a terrible time in history.
Certainly.
But if somebody, it's not like somebody's displaying that in your face as a belief or as something that they're representing themselves to be. And even so, I have a hard time. That's that speech. That is.
Dave says, to quote Jabba the Hutt, you're my kind of scum. That was a good one, Dave.
At what point do we as Americans stand up and say, no, you know what, I'm not taking this down. If this evokes certain feelings in you, hey, you know what? This is supposed to be a reminder so that we don't repeat history. And if a collector wants this in their collection so that they don't forget, they can educate and talk to people about the era and so forth and about, then so be it. I'm not flying this in your face. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm literally having it on display for sale as a piece of history. So if history makes you angry, are these the same people that open up a textbook and if they're reading about World War II and they see a symbol of Nazi Germany, that they're offended because it makes them feel bad? When they go on Wikipedia and look at the combatants in a war and it lists the battle flags of each of the combatants, does it make them feel icky or hurt their feelings because the German battle flag, the Nazi party flag is there?
Some people today, I would say potentially yes.
Yeah. Where do we draw? And one other thought crossed my mind as I was listening, and then I'll turn it over to you. And it kind of dovetails into the State of the Union, and we are going to get to it. I promise. Yes. There's a lot to discuss there. I don't want to take too much time up more on this, but I know you have something, BZ. But I thought as I'm listening to Trump, and as Trump is sitting there honoring the survivor of the Holocaust. He's honoring World War II veterans. Yep. He touted the fact that our relationship with Israel and that we moved our embassy to Jerusalem. And I couldn't help thinking about the Nazi memorabilia and how Trump is being touted as a white nationalist Nazi, yet he's done more for Israel and Jewish people. I just wonder, how does that get reconciled in the left's brain? That's just kind of a side thought. But anyways, go ahead, BZ. I'm sorry.
No, that's I'll tell you what, that's a story for another show. I found the article that I was looking for that I promoted before the break that is aligned directly with this. Well, during the break, I found another article that turns out to be aligned again with what you were just talking about. So these two stories I'd like to go over, and then obviously I'd like to have your input and thoughts about them. Mm-hmm. The first one is this. This is the story that I first discovered. When did this come out? Okay, apparently this is an old story, but I just happened to see it on the internet very recently. It's from Newsweek. I'm looking at the the byline, and I'm looking at the date. This is back from last year. This is April of 2018, but I'm sure it's true today as well. But I found this, just the headline itself, shocking. 1/3 of Americans don't believe 6 million Jews were murdered during the Holocaust. And my first thought, and like I say, this isn't some right-wing rag. This is Newsweek making this
which
claim,
is a rag.
Which is a rag,
in my opinion,
and it's not even out in publication anymore. You got to go to the internet to find it. It died in magazine. I think it comes out every once in a while, not with any great frequency. It says 1/3 of Americans think substantially less than 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust, according to a new survey that highlights a worrying lack of basic knowledge about World War II-era genocide. What an incredible statement. That's like saying, I don't know, maybe there's going to be somebody in here who will challenge us. It's like saying, okay, we didn't go to the moon and planes didn't bring down the World Trade Center.
Oh, I think it's worse than that. That's like
you don't believe that.
Yeah, that's
okay. And so
that's like saying the Japanese didn't attack Pearl Harbor.
Well, yeah, that dovetails perfectly with your story that you just came out with about Nazi memorabilia. How long will it be before somehow people really don't know who the Nazis were? I'll wager that if you asked 90% of the kids today, millennials or Gen Zers, what's a Nazi? Who were the Nazis? What did they represent? And in what time period were they active?
And more importantly, how did they come into power?
How did they come into power? Parenthesis, like air quotes, hey, folks, we're seeing this shit again, okay?
Yeah.
George Santayana, those who do not finish the quote.
Know history are doomed to repeat it.
Are doomed to repeat it, exactly. So your story was a perfect illustration of we're not interested in history, and we don't know about history, and even when it's there in front of our face, we don't want to know about it.
Let me give you so this is a true story. My niece, love her to death. Very close with her growing up and so forth. When she was growing up, still talk to her on a regular basis. Love her to death. But I had conversations with her when she was in high school. She had an advanced placement U.S. history class.
Oh boy,
college level U.S. history class.
Okay,
their textbook was A People's History of the United States, written by Howard Zinn.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say something like, Cass Sunstein or Bill,
Howard Zinn
or Bill Ayers.
Howard Zinn is just as bad. So he wrote his book, A People's History of the... He is a Marxist, socialist piece of garbage, in my opinion. He wrote his book with a very anti-American view. He wrote it with a... If you haven't checked it out, yeah, Howard Zinn. It's actually quoted in Good Will Hunting when he says, now, Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States. Now, that's a book that'll knock your socks off.
You have a great memory for that.
So... It's a horrible book. It was written, I believe, in the 70s, but that's their textbook. So to offset that being the good uncle I am, I bought her a Patriots History of the United States just to offset the communist freaking indoctrination that was happening in her class.
God bless you for that.
So this is a true story. This is what her teacher mentioned about George Washington and John Adams. Two pretty important people in history to study,
right?
If you're studying American history, particularly at a college level.
Kids may know
AP
Sam
class.
Adams.
Right, right.
But they don't know John Adams.
Yeah. So here is this is a quote of what she told me, and I remember this. She's well out of high school. She's got a great career now, married to a fantastic guy. I love them both, but I still remember to this day what she told me her teacher said. She said, "Uncle, this is what my teacher said about George Washington and John Adams. He said, in the same breath, George Washington was not very intelligent, and for John Adams, all you need to know about him is Alien and Sedition Acts. I'm not saying any more about them.
Oh, please.
That is what our high school students here in California at Santa Rosa High School in their AP history class was learning about our founding fathers. They spent a lot of time on FDR. Shocking.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of time on Woodrow Wilson. Shocking.
Yeah, folks, if you don't know about Woodrow Wilson, oh my God.
Yeah, he is responsible for the income tax.
Yes.
He is responsible for the direct election of U.S. senators. He fundamentally transformed our American government because he took state representation away at the federal level. So it used to be the states were the people were represented by the House, right? That's where the people's representation comes.
Correct.
Well, the state legislatures would choose the senators. The senators were the upper house, and they would represent the state interests, the interests of the individual states at the federal level, and the president obviously being the executive that manages the federal. So you had all three interests working together to pass legislation. Woodrow Wilson was responsible for stopping that, putting an end to that. Because what's the biggest threat to federal power? States' rights. And
that damn 10th Amendment.
The other thing that Woodrow Wilson did is he said he wanted to make our young men as least like their fathers as possible. Because did you forget about that?
I had forgotten.
Oh,
that
folks,
quote.
Study Woodrow. If you want to know
God, you're
what
right.
is going on today.
You're right.
And he wanted to do it through the education system. Folks, progressives have been at this for over 100 years. And this is the result we get now in the education system that we have here in the United States, and in particular, the state of California. And this is what my lovely niece was exposed to. So you want to know why people don't understand the principles of our country. You want to know why they don't understand Western civilization. You want to know why they think socialism is good. This is why. They're erasing history. They're changing history. And I know this flag incident or this memorabilia incident is kind of just another little example of that. They're erasing
It's endemic.
It is.
I'm going to finish this story, and then I've got one more before the top of the hour break.
They're erasing our history, and it's sad. Look, folks, we are responsible. Every civilization throughout history has had slavery. We're the first ones to end it.
There is slavery today.
Yes.
In Africa.
Yes.
There is slavery today.
Yes. The United States of America, in particular Western civilization, ended slavery. All of the civilizations practiced slavery. The American Indians practiced a form of slavery, the Native Americans.
Thank you for saying that, because as I
I'm
said,
going to be crucified for that. Watch.
Well, it's true. I'm going to tell people a commonality about all human beings. Here's the deal about the Plains Indians. They were some of the most cruel, barbaric people around. Women rapers, extremely warlike, not necessarily at one with nature, etc., etc. Here's the truth, which is, had the American Plains Indian or the American Indian encountered their Bronze Age or their Industrial Age before Europe, and done it right there where they were, they would have built ships, crossed the ocean, and slaughtered the crap out of people in Europe. Period. End of statement. Now, are you...
Yeah, I am, BZ. I know we have a lot to get to, and we're almost 1 hour down, and we have a whole State of the Union to get to.
Let me go over this. This is more of the story about people not remembering the Holocaust anymore. These are another couple of quotes. The Conference on Jewish Materials Claims Against Germany, or Claims Conference, released the findings of the survey to coincide with Holocaust Remembrance Day. They show a notable lack of understanding among Americans, especially millennials, the group said. Bingo. The survey shows that 70% of Americans believe people care less about the Holocaust than they used to. A majority, 58%, said they believe something like the Holocaust could happen again. We remove history to our own very, very serious detriment. I'm going to throw this one story out. We got only about 3 minutes to discuss it. But again, this is where history is today. This is from ArizonaCentral.com. I'm gonna state the headline, and you're gonna go, "Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that." The headline is this: Phoenix restaurant says this is a photo of coal miners, but I see offensive blackface. This is an opinion piece by some guy, Rashad Thomas or something like that. Okay, so we're going back to history, looking at a photograph of coal miners. The guy says, he writes, "A few weeks ago, I attended a holiday party at a downtown Phoenix restaurant. I walked around to view the photographs on the wall. Then a photograph caught my attention. Friends said, it's a coal miner at a pub after work. It was a photograph of coal miners with blackened faces. I asked a Latina and a white woman for their opinion. They said it looked like the coal miners at a pub after work. Then they stepped back, frowned, and said, it's men in blackface."
So, okay. First of all,
this is the victimology of leftists. This is people, it's in the leftist domain anymore that you're not shit unless you're a victim.
So let me say this. That governor, okay, somebody dressed in blackface right next to a guy in a KKK outfit.
Northam.
That's one thing. Okay, that's pretty distasteful. Somebody who dressed up in quote-unquote blackface because they're trying to emulate their favorite rap singer at the time or emulate a rap, big fucking deal. So here's my take on this, and I was thinking about this today. I actually had a discussion on this today. My kids have a grandfather who is black, and he's obviously not biological, but they've grown up their entire life with him as their grandfather, very close to him. My kids have grown up not seeing a difference in race. They learned that as they're going up and in school and so forth. Before they really, and they still don't even really see a difference. They refer to him as, hey, that dark man, or hey, that dark gal, or so they'll refer to skin shading. They don't see the racial differences because of how they have grown up. So my kids could and one of my boys loves Black Panther. He wanted to dress up as Black Panther for Halloween.
Oh my God.
And one of the things he wanted to do,
my God,
because he loves Black Panther and he doesn't see a difference in race, is he wanted to darken his skin like Black Panther. Could you imagine? He didn't. He had a mask and everything on. But could you imagine this little boy legitimately want to dress up as a character who he looked up to, a black superhero that he looks up to as a kid, much like some kids look up to Superman, some kids look up to Aquaman, Wonder Woman, whatever, and he wants to dress up to emulate a superhero. Can you imagine the outcry today?
Oh boy,
that would be. So, okay, so does that mean then, by the same argument, that a black kid couldn't dress up as Superman and lighten his face?
Something tells me, however, that
would be acceptable, right?
That's a one-way street.
But
why
this is my point, right?
Yes.
I can't dress up as a Native American with a headdress to go to a Halloween costume.
Not anymore.
Where do we draw the line? Can I not dress up as an alien because maybe aliens exist and we don't want to offend them?
They could get pissed off.
Can I not dress up as an elephant because perhaps elephants don't like the fact that I'm dressing up as them because I'm making fun of them?
Well,
can I not dress up as a priest?
Listen,
where do you draw the line? But my point is that what blackface, quote unquote, if somebody's dressing in quote unquote blackface to denigrate with the intent of denigrating a specific race or ethnic group or something, that makes them an asshole. But it doesn't mean that they can't do it. We still live in America. But even in a case as simple and as innocent as a young kid wanting to dress up as their favorite superhero who happens to be another race, but the kid legitimately doesn't see that. Yet, could you imagine if he wanted to run for office one day and somebody got a hold of that? It's, oh my God, your parents let you dress up as blackface. Where do we draw the line?
George Santayana, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. We are in the process of being doomed. Folks, come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
S-H-A-T.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yeah. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. You know, we talked about this for for the last 3 years, and finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, Sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Wow. This has been a great show. First hour it just blew right back. Just way past. And I tried to get into chat, but during the break, this is wonderful.
So
during the break, over there, let's see, no.
Oh, you got to point that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
over there.
Yes.
Sackheads Clint found a story and just now sent it to me. Oh my God, this is great. So please take it away, Sackheads Clint. This is great. I love this.
So Joseph Wolfson, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, of Fox News, posted an article about an hour ago about Joy Behar. And if you know who she is, she's one of the great conservative, gun-loving, red-blooded American broads
right.
on The View. Well, there was a clip that resurfaced today that showed her explaining a Halloween costume from when she was younger. She was 29 years old at the time, so I think this was about 80 years ago.
That's my kind of age.
And she had a picture of herself dressed up as a quote, beautiful African woman at a Halloween party. And she said that she was used makeup that was a little bit darker than her skin in order to achieve this. And one of the other co-hosts said, "Oh my gosh, Joy, are you black?" And Joy Behar says, "I was so cute." And she says, "Joy, are you my auntie, Joy?" This other gal on the show joked, and it was so great. And then they asked, "Did you have tanning lotion on?" And she said, "Oh, that was a little bit darker than my skin for the makeup." And it was just all so cute, and it was so nice, and it was a Halloween costume, and she was a beautiful African woman that she was dressed up as. That's fucking called blackface, you bunch of fucking jackasses. So on one hand, people are skewering the fucking governor and now the attorney general for quote-unquote blackface, and kids at college can't dress up in quote-unquote blackface, or they can't dress up as American Indians, or they can't dress up as Mexicans. They can't wear sombreros. They can't have Taco Tuesday because it's quote-unquote cultural appropriation.
They can't have Chow Mein Wednesday.
But this broad dressed up in blackface,
okay,
and it's fine.
Let me ask you a very important question.
Are you fucking kidding me?
We watched Elizabeth Warren basically numerous times, and she got places in her historical working career because she got ahead of other people, let's put it that way, because she touted herself as whatever percentile of Indian, took a DNA test and discovered that, I think my laptop in front of me has possibly more American Indian in it than she does. So she culturally appropriated the entire American Indian culture by doing that, insisted that she didn't, and essentially nothing has happened. And as we pointed out during the break, Governor Northam was either the dude in blackface or the dude wearing a KKK white cap. And so he's being skewered. The first day he says, okay, that's me. The second day he says, no, that's not me. The third day, people come back and say, okay, we want you all out. We want you out. The Democrats are saying we want you out. The third day also he says, oh, I'm not going anywhere. The fourth day, his lieutenant governor, who is poised to replace him if he leaves, who is a black guy, now there are sexual assault, not just, I called you a name, but actual sexual assault charges levied by another woman against this guy who apparently he allegedly sexually assaulted her during a DNC conference.
And to be fair, that's a he said, she said.
And
I don't want to jump on the bandwagon. I don't want to do to the left what they tried to do to Kavanaugh.
But I'm pointing this fact out, which is it's okay if they do it. It's bad
exactly
if we do it. So as we were discussing on the break, I have to, it's called schadenfreude. Mm-hmm. Schadenfreude is the equivalent of watching the dead bodies of your enemies float languidly by on the river as you sit on the bank of the river and point and laugh at them. So that these fucktards are getting hoisted on the petard of their very own creation, to quote Chief Dan George from a Clint Eastwood movie, my heart soars like an eagle. When something like that happens, it makes me very, very happy to see that sort of thing happening.
Yeah.
It couldn't, in other words, it couldn't happen to a finer set of people.
Of broads. So, one of our listeners just sent me a message saying that he thinks all of us should dress up as coal miners for Halloween.
Should we have a daughter?
Get a hard hat and just dress up as coal miners. What? Look, we're well into past the halfway mark of the show. Let's get into the State of the Union.
Okay,
because there was some great stuff there.
I got a couple of audio cuts that I'd like to play.
Yeah, please.
And I'd like to get your input on these. The first one is I think it's on the Hannity show, and if I'm not mistaken, this is Jim Jordan piping up about one of what I think was one of the most powerful aspects of President Trump's State of the Union speech.
I got to say this. This was. I've watched every State of the Union that I can remember. I remember watching one of Reagan's State of the Unions because I was pretty young when he took office. But I remember he served 8 years, and I remember watching one of his, and I remember just being in awe. I didn't really understand too much of what was happening, but I remember feeling a sense of pride from hearing that. And I've watched almost, I can't say every, but I've watched damn near every State of the Union, certainly in my adult life, and particularly the closing, and I want to touch on the closing when we get to the end. So before we go, I would like a few minutes to touch on that.
Sure.
But this was one of the best State of the Union speeches I have ever seen, if not the best, maybe second to the one I remember when I was very young of Reagan's.
I have to say that my favorite State of the Union speech, and it was powerful for me because I was there. He dropped his hat, and I picked it up and gave it back to Abraham Lincoln. So I enjoy. Compared to that, though, what I'm saying is this State of the Union speech, the consensus from altogether, according to leftists, way too many people, is it was damn good. Well, let's play some audio cuts, and then I'd like people, if you didn't happen to listen to it, I have the whole thing, and Clint and I discussed it. I thought, okay, I've got an hour and a half of the Clinton speech or the Trump State of the Union speech. Do you want to play the whole thing, and we'll just comment on it? And you said that's going to be too long, so I found and some specific cuts.
And this is a speech.
From that.
This is a speech that I think you have to watch. I don't think listening to it does it justice.
You don't get the full thrust of it unless you're watching. So yeah, listening. Now these cuts, they still have some good impact. And the first one that I'm going to play is not from the speech itself, but it's a reaction. And like I'm saying, this is Representative Jim Jordan, who's weighing in on one particular aspect of President Trump's speech.
The turnaround. No, it's amazing. Been amazing 2 years. Regulations cut, taxes cut, economy growing at an unprecedented rate. Gorsuch, Kavanaugh on the court, out of the Iran deal, embassy in Jerusalem, hostages home from North Korea. I mean, it's an amazing record.
He could take my job over because I do that.
The best part of the speech, in my judgment, was when you had the President of the United States talk about the sanctity of human life. and in a way that was so powerful in light of what's happened in the last couple of weeks with some of these New York and Virginia. I thought that was the most, there were all kinds of powerful moments, but that was the key moment. When have you ever seen a president of the United States stand up and defend the sanctity and respect for life like this president did tonight?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But one of the main reasons for that is because of the insanity that occurred this past week from Governor Cuomo in New York, in a law that they passed and celebrated, essentially saying, pretty much infanticide is okay. Then Governor Northam in Virginia saying, well, once a baby's born and it's actually outside the womb, that's okay to kill him too.
And let him die.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to kill him.
No,
they can let him die.
I think he said, and you said this last time, you got to make him a little comfortable,
yes.
And then you kill him.
Yeah, no, then you let him die.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Okay.
You can't kill him because that's murder. But you let him die.
Oh, well, no, it's not murder in New York. They removed the criminal aspect of that in the state of New York.
Yeah, and
you've got a president saying this.
80% of Americans do not agree with late-term abortion. That is a losing issue for the Democrats, but they are so hard left right now. And we won't even get into the moral debate because the fact that we would even be discussing the need to have a moral debate on this topic for late-term abortion,
it staggers the brain.
Yes.
How do you wrap your head around the fact that leftists are pushing so far that they're looking for actually infanticide?
I think maybe they've pushed so hard
that it is infanticide.
It is, but you know what? I think maybe they've pushed so hard on this. They may have pushed so hard that they just get they just get it. They just lose it altogether.
I want to interject this very quickly because if you think this is just a passing trend, I have a story from Politico.com that I'm going to go over tomorrow night on my show. The headline is, and this is within the perspective of Democrats themselves, the headline is, there's going to be a war within the party. We are going to lean into it. The Justice Democrats helped get Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez elected. Who are they going to go after next? So this is Democrat after Democrat. This is the Democratic Party at stake right now. And these people, like I say, if you think that this is just a little blip on the radar, that, they're going to come to their senses and they'll be more moderate. No, fuck no. There is no moderation coming on the part of the leftists. Like Kurt Schlichter said 2 weeks ago on my show, we have to be militant normals. We are the normals. Now it's time to get militant. Too loud?
I had to switch headphones because
oh crap, it broke. Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
No.
I'll fix the volume.
Nah, no worries. You got another clip?
No. Not right now. I can find one at the break, and we'll get the volume level taken care of. Okay, that was one cut that I played. Here's another one that I'd like to feature. This. Oh! I almost forgot this. My brain is going all over the place. This was a very well received State of the Union speech. And there are some stats that have already come out now about this.
Oh, the immediate polls right afterwards. Watching the liberal media, their faces when they had to report these numbers, particularly the CBS poll.
Camshafts got thrown.
My God.
Approval of President Trump's State of the Union speech. 97% approval, Republicans. 30% approval, Democrats. Independents, what would you think?
I know the numbers, so I'm not going to showbiz it. Go ahead.
87% of independents. Folks, I'm an independent. I may look like a Republican. I may talk like a Republican, but I'm a conservative first and a little L libertarian after that.
Yep.
87 percentile approval of that speech by independents. Wake up.
That's huge.
Democrats.
And you know what? I heard one of the Democrats come on, and they were hit with the poll numbers immediately afterwards. I think CBS was like 78% approval right afterwards or something like that.
Yep, I'm trying to find that.
And what
right
this jacktard said is he said, well, we can't make Democrats watch the speech.
Okay, here we go.
These were all Republicans that watched the speech.
Yeah.
He said that's what they said.
Oh, I know.
That's their line.
It's insanity writ large. Okay, I found it. CBS News poll right after the speech. Views of the speech among speech watchers, and it doesn't break down into blah 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 blah. It just
speech watchers.
It rounds everyone,
period. Which they should.
Thing. And again, noting the source, CBS. Approve. All right, excuse me. Disapprove, 24%.
Mm-hmm.
Approve, 76%.
Okay, I think I said 78.
And this is a CBS poll. Now, this is...
And when they had to report those numbers, oh my God.
This is... Now, that was CBS. Here's a screenshot that I'm looking at from CNN. And there's a newsreader on the right pointing to this chart. And the graphic says, reaction to Trump's speech. Speech watchers. Again, doesn't break anybody down into just speech watchers. Very positive. This is CNN. Very positive, 59%. Somewhat positive, 17%. Negative, 23%.
Add those two numbers together.
Yeah. Basically, you have 3/4.
Yep.
There's less than a quarter of the people who watch the speech think of it in negative terms.
Yeah. And
this is a clue. These are clues.
And that is so huge. You had look, I didn't count how many times the Democrats stood up. This president spoke on issues, and I know you have more for us, BZ, but he spoke on issues that really should have, and it did, transcended the political aisle. He talked on issues that the parties actually have common ground on. Particularly on immigration. I mean, Jesus, the Democrats voted for a wall under Obama. They wanted the wall under Obama, and now they don't. Because they've talked about prison reform or sentencing reform, the criminal justice reform. He talked about drugs and not allowing that across our borders. He talked about infrastructure, which is huge. He talked about energy, which is huge. He talked about the economy. He talked about blue-collar manufacturing jobs. He talked about all of these things, and Democrats were, I mean, at one point he even had the women in white who were sworn not to stand up. And he called them on it. He said, you weren't supposed to do that. And he said, you like that, wait for this one, or something like this.
See, in my opinion, with this speech, one of the reasons that it was a great speech is he did what he has customarily done, except this time he kind of pulled the Trump bull, the bull in the china shop, back a little bit.
Yes.
And was, in my opinion, had more efficacy behind it. The other problem, the writing on the wall, was exactly as you point out, folks. There's a big difference between listening to some of the cuts that I'm going to play and watching the speech. As you pointed out, watching the speech is critical because of the way that certain people stand up and applaud and sit down. What the news readers on CNN, CBS, ABC, blah, 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 mostly don't show is that I'm sure as far as Nancy Pelosi is concerned, the Democrats stood up and applauded way too many times for her. There was also the time, and this is I'm sure that yesterday, last night, and today Pelosi was making an assload of phone calls. If you happen to zoom in on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the new wonder of the Democrat leftist socialists, did you notice how she, during some portions of the speech, before she got up, sitting there, and I zoomed in on this, she's looking to her left, she's looking to her right. What are the other people doing? Do I stand up and applaud? Do I sit down? I'm looking for some leadership. Oh, that is so plain. It's so obvious.
Yeah.
Talk about...
Do what you feel you should do.
Yeah, well, which is why I'm sure that Pelosi zeroed in on a lot of those people, called them up and said something similar to, if you stand up during one of his State of the Union speeches again, well, there won't be another one unless, certain things happen. Well, yeah, there will be another one. If you stand up again.
There'll be one more.
Yeah, there'll be one more.
On an election year.
Yeah. I'm going to cut your knees off, and if you had any hopes of sitting on certain committees, those hopes are going straight to hell.
And here's the problem. If they don't stand up, and this is stuff that there is common ground on, then they look like the a-holes.
Yeah.
He had them set up perfectly.
It was
he talked about job growth. He talked about women taking 58% of the new jobs. He talked about the minority. I mean, he talked about everything. And you know what? He accomplished what the Democrats and even previous Republican administrations couldn't do.
It was a perfect pincher military maneuver.
Yeah.
He outflanked them all, basically, because it got down to a little bit of, if you're a Democrat, I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if I don't.
How do I not applaud economic growth and 58% of the good jobs being filled by women? How do I not applaud that?
See, the other thing is that when he was announcing the fact that we have the lowest unemployment for Hispanics,
for blacks,
crickets on the Democrat side. That is going to come back.
Yes, it is.
That's going to come back.
They say they're for you. Look at this. When I said that we had the lowest unemployment rate for the minority groups, look, the Democrats didn't cheer for you. The Republicans did.
Yeah.
We're the ones that accomplished this.
Can you, and I wish people would do this. I put this out as a hashtag late last year. Think of all the great, let's see, what do we got? 2 more minutes before the bottom of the hour.
That's right. We can play another clip and go. I say we go through the break. We got too much.
We have a ton.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you love, and think of the promotion or the ads that you could build around all the things that the Democrats have done and not done, said and not said in the past year. Just from the State of the Union speech, think of all the visuals and the audio that you could get. Pelosi rolling her eyes, AOC standing there doing nothing. Speaking of AOC...
You know what I'd play? I would play the ad of me saying something, of Trump saying something great, and watch the whole chamber stand up and applaud, Democrats and Republicans, and zoom in on the Democrats that these people love applauding him. That's the ad I would make.
Or the photograph that I put up somewhere on Twitter of Pelosi reaching her hand down and pointing and gesturing at President Trump. You don't see that.
I didn't see that.
See, okay.
I missed it. What was she doing?
She was, Pence is sitting to the left of Trump, and she's sitting on the right. Mm-hmm. And there's a photograph taken from the right side of her reaching down from her chair and extending her hand in a gesture towards, it looks like a bit of a supplication towards President Trump. I've never seen that before. As in acknowledging his presence, being gracious for just a moment.
She was being gracious?
For just a moment. To him.
Oh, I thought maybe she was reaching. Was he facing the rest of the chambers?
He was looking. He was looking towards her.
You know what I think she was doing?
And she was making a gesture towards him, or maybe she was throwing a poison at him.
No, maybe. Look, hey, with all of the sexual allegations going on the side of the Democrats, maybe she was trying to crotch grab him.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It makes you wonder. Here's a cut that I've got. This is about a minute. And at the conclusion, I want you, Clint, or anybody else to tell me what other president would have said something like this in such a plain and clear fashion. To me, this was one of about 3 or 4 incredible highlights during this particular speech. And this isn't people weighing in on the speech. This is Trump speaking now.
Here in the United States, We are alarmed by the new calls to adopt socialism in our country. America was founded on liberty and...
Now, question for you. Were those people booing socialism or booing his mention of we're not going to go so... Well, he hasn't said that yet. Booing his mention of socialism.
I don't think so. I think they were booing socialism.
Okay. All right, let's continue.
Independence and not government coercion, domination, and control. We are born free and we will stay free.
Here's where we're going to get snippy, because a lot of the people that are applauding that happen to stand up as well, a lot of those people were Democrats.
So, yeah. So he says we were born free.
Okay. This is again why you have to watch the speech. I wish I could.
When was the last time you heard the chants of USA, USA?
Oh, that was at the beginning of the whole thing. That was grand.
When's the last time you heard that?
Yeah.
I don't remember
so
ever
many
hearing
people
it before.
saying USA.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a picture now, right in the middle of this speech. Here's Bernie Sanders with his hand on his chin doing nothing. Well, that shit, Bernie, that's aimed right at you, dude. And AOC.
Yep.
Listen to this.
Tonight, we renew our resolve that America will never be a socialist country.
Okay, stop. Mike Pence levitates out of that chair.
Yep.
Nancy Pelosi's ass is glued to the chair.
She eventually got up, if I
Now
remember right.
Now they're looking out, the camera is looking out towards the rest of Congress there, all 435 Congress critters in there, and I'm looking and I see just a couple of people sitting down, but not many.
Yep.
Which is exactly what the hell should be happening.
Yes. Ronald Reagan.
What other president
Ronald Reagan
could pull that off?
Ronald Reagan.
How glorious was that?
It was amazing. It was amazing. Look,
that's exactly what you want to hear.
Yes,
but you can't hear it.
And
Let me ask you this:
how many
would you have
presidents
heard this under Hillary Clinton?
Fuck no, absolutely
Would you
not.
have heard this under Mitt Romney?
No, of course
Would you
not.
have heard this under Jeb Bush?
No,
no.
You wouldn't have heard this under George Bush.
No.
Donald Trump has the balls to say it. He has the balls to come right out and say we will never be a socialist country. You know what? It seems to me that Trump has tracked more to the right than he was even when he was campaigning. That's just my perception. But I have to wonder if he is doing that because he's recognizing more and more of the bullshit as he's in Washington. Just a thought.
All right.
I
get
that's
it.
just my perception of him. I'm not saying that's reality, but it seems to me that he's tracking more to the right than he did previously.
Okay. I have a story written by Newt Gingrich, and in the meantime, after I read this, I'm going to go see if I featured a couple of audio cuts from this, and I'm going to have to look and see if I've gotten them all, whether I just had two that I put out on Twitter. This is an article that was penned by Newt Gingrich, a former speaker himself, and he was highly he said the State of the Union speech was incredibly praiseworthy. And I after reading this, I have to agree, but there are a couple of very salient points in this. Every once in a while, a speech is so effective and powerful that it changes the trajectory of history. Stop. Do you agree with that, Sackheads Clint?
Absolutely.
Okay. President Trump's 2019 State of the Union address was that kind of a speech. You should watch it online. Reading it, just like you point out, reading it will convey 10% of its power.
Yeah.
It was the interaction of the president with the members of Congress and the audience in the galleries. We haven't even gotten to that part yet. And folks, obviously we missed the break, and screw the break. We're going to go power on right up to the top of the hour. The emotions of Tuesday night's speech matched anything President Reagan achieved in his address to Congress. Gingrich should know he was there. From the early mentions of people in the gallery, which were guaranteed to get even the Democrats, I remember this, to stand up and applaud, to spontaneously singing Happy Birthday.
Yeah.
To a Holocaust and 2018 synagogue shooting survivor, to chanting USA, USA. The total performance and interaction with the members of Congress was vastly more powerful than words on paper. And he said the delivery was absolutely presidential. He interacted with Democrats in a positive and a cheerful way. Thoughts on that?
Well, he did. He wasn't. I know the Democrats, their talking point is he threatened them. Jesus. No. He was jovial. Just like when he told the female congresswoman, you weren't supposed to do that. You were not supposed to stand up for me.
But that's again what people like about him.
Yeah.
But the filter comes off sometimes.
He was. I think I felt that he was. I thought that he was respectful to the Democratic side of the House. I think that
yes, he was.
He took.
Yes.
Hey, you know what? We don't need to be doing partisan investigations. That was a little bit, I don't know if it was necessarily a shot. I think it's accurate. I think it's 100% accurate.
Well, they took it as a shot. Come on.
Yeah, of course. And it might have been a little bit of a shot. But it's accurate.
It is.
It's so I think he treated them with respect. I think that he didn't kiss their ass. But he did talk on issues where there is common ground. And I don't want to get to the end yet. But I really want to talk about the end of the speech where I think the true power in that speech was, and I haven't heard too much talk about the ending of it. But go ahead, BZ.
We got 22 more minutes. We'll be able to do that. I want to continue on now, if I can, with a little bit more of this, because Newt Gingrich really focuses like a laser beam on what's going on with Nancy Pelosi, which is why I liked this article and I wanted to bring it to the attention of
Well, he was
today.
Speaker of the House.
Yes, he was.
With Bill Clinton.
Yeah. And that's right here.
And Bill Clinton had a pretty good speech that brought Republicans to their feet when he was the Speaker.
There you go, because that's exactly what he wrote. As a former Speaker of the House who had to stand and applaud President Bill Clinton, boom, Clint, when he said the era of big government is over, I knew exactly what was going on in Speaker Nancy Pelosi's mind. She had to sit and be pleasant while her major opponent got her own party to repeatedly stand with enthusiastic applause. She had to listen politely to the person she spends every day attacking. The vice president is always a happy and a solid cheerleader. When I was Speaker, Al Gore would sit next to me and enthusiastically applaud everything President Clinton said. Last night, Mike Pence was cheerfully standing and applauding as often as possible. Having the opposition party's top cheerleader sit next to you just makes the speaker's job harder.
Yeah.
And then he writes this. Speaker Pelosi at times could not help herself. She would conspicuously pick up the speech text and read it to find out how much longer she had to remain disciplined and pretend to be a good hostess. The president is the guest of the House, literally.
And on that, I do have to say, I am not a fan of Pelosi, so chat room, do not jump my shit right now. I am not a fan, but I did see a couple times where she kind of used her hand to kind of, when the Democrats were going to start like boo or kind of do something, speak out of turn, where she did keep them at bay. And I did see that a couple times. And Nancy Pelosi, she may be condescending, she may be a lot of things, but I thought last night, considering the source, that's my caveat, considering the source, she conducted herself fairly acceptable in a fairly decent manner, in my opinion. Particularly the couple times she kind of had to hold her hand up and kind of, hey, like, let him speak. You know, let's not be those people. Because remember, the Republicans took a hit when Obama spoke a couple times, and she wasn't going to let that happen. So I got to give a little bit of credit where it's due. Not much, because I have so very little respect for her, but I didn't think she was horrible last night.
Then you'll enjoy this. Oh God. Okay.
Don't get sidetracked.
No.
We got only 18 minutes.
No, I just remembered this thing. I have a couple of audio cuts of reactions from leftists to the speech. So I'm going to mention this. I'd like you to take over a position or an aspect of the speech. I'm going to go find those because they're so out. They're so out of logic and rationality. But anyway, this is a great sentence about Pelosi. Newt Gingrich writes, "When even her most radical new members began standing and applauding, she must have experienced just a bit of despair." And then he goes on to write, the State of the Union was reflected in a stunning CBS News poll. The people that watched, 76% approval, 24% disapprove. He says clearly there is a bias in asking those who watched. More Republicans watch a Republican president. More Democrats watch a Democratic president. You pointed that out.
Mm-hmm.
The 97% approval among Republicans, with the 90-10 Trump over Kasich numbers from a recent Emerson College poll of Iowa voters, should end all serious talk of someone challenging him for the Republican nomination in 2020.
You know, you got jackasses like John Kasich out there.
Yeah, who, by the way, is a commentator for
CNN, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Of course he is.
So I'm going to go see if I can find. There are some incredibly stupid things that were said. I'm
yeah,
gonna see
look,
if I can
even
now.
the fact checkers. I think one of the fact checkers.
Oh, they were talk about super incredible.
Well, it was actually it's not
nitpicking.
1 in 3 who are raped coming across the border. It's 31%, and even there were even people on the left saying, "Oh, really?" So he rounded up 2%, and that's just ridiculous. I think that whoever was Trump's speechwriter, and I don't know how much he has.
Yeah, I don't know how much he injects.
So I know Reagan used to want to write his own speeches, right? Or be very involved in that process.
Right.
I don't know about Trump. I haven't heard one way or another on that. But I believe Trump wouldn't have anything in his speech that he didn't believe. I mean, you pretty much know where you stand with Trump. Trump doesn't say, at least I don't think, and I haven't experienced this, where he says one thing and he ends up doing something else, right? So the fact that Trump had even the Democrats standing on some of these things is amazing, and I think that I think Trump sealed the Republican nomination for sure with this. I didn't think it was really much doubt, but look, with the jobs and the manufacturing jobs that he's bringing back, and the fact that he is the toughest president probably since Reagan on Russia, I think Trump's going to get reelected. I really do, particularly with the manufacturing jobs in the Midwest and Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin that he's bringing back. He touted that the economy is going to be huge. I think he needs to kind of temper some of his tweets out there, but people have to look at his actual deeds and not necessarily the fact that they just don't like his personality. Do you have the last segment of the speech? Because I absolutely want to make sure we get to this.
No. I want to mention this. I couldn't find the audio cut,
Sure.
but I want to find this. This is from the Washington Examiner. This is a reaction by CNN's Van Jones.
Oh, geez, that guy's freaking nuts.
So his reaction was, and I could have sworn I had it originally in this cut, but I can't find the audio on the page. He said that President Trump's State of the Union address was a speech comprised of cookies and dog poop. Quote, "I saw this as a psychotically incoherent speech with cookies and dog poop. He tries to put together in the same speech these warm, kind things about humanitarianism and caring about children. At the same time, he's demonizing people who are immigrants in a way that was appalling." That's one of the reactions from Van Jones. God, I wish I had the audio of that. I think, oh gosh, let me look down here. I have an audio cut. Okay, here's one that I found, and this is always good. Here's Rachel Madcow talking to our favorite Democrat socialist. This is about 50 seconds. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, as she herself weighs in on the with her vast knowledge,
her vast knowledge,
vast experience, and her training. She's weighing in on the State of the Union speech. Take it, dearie.
Congresswoman, let me ask you first, just for your response to what you heard tonight from the president. Obviously, this is the first State of the Union you've ever attended as a member of Congress. What was your experience tonight, and what did you think of what you heard?
No, I think that the president was unprepared. I don't think that he did his homework. We've seen states of the
He was unprepared and he didn't do his homework.
Union addresses delivered by many presidents, Democrat and Republican. They almost always have substantive policies that are offered. I agree with Senator Klobuchar there that there was no plan. There was no plan to address our opioid crisis. There was no plan to address the cost of health care. There was no plan to increase wages. It was, I had to ask myself, is this a campaign stop or is this a State of the Union?
Hey, Alexandria, my precious little bint. That's called bully pulpit. And he gets to have it because he's the president and he got elected.
Yeah. If you want it, you get elected one day.
I have an audio cut. What do we got here? About 10 minutes. I have an audio cut where
I have to get to the closing. That's a big deal.
And we will. An audio cut where first let me ask you this question, Sackheads Clint.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts or what is your opinion about Lindsey Graham these days?
I think that Lindsey Graham, I think that the Kavanaugh hearings was a fundamental shift for Lindsey Graham.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think that before he was very conciliatory. He tried to be very, very middle of the road. He was always first to reach across the aisle. Sometimes he went against what the Republican Party was looking to do. I think sometimes he hurt the Republican Party, but he is a different man since the Kavanaugh hearings. In the Kavanaugh hearings, he turned into a bulldog for the first time that I remember seeing it.
His 10-minute speech,
and he has
completely extemporaneously.
It did, and even
was brilliant.
And he said. He even came out and said that if there was another opening on the Supreme Court, Trump will get that nominee through. He is a bull, particularly on SCOTUS issues, and I think that he is. I think that Kavanaugh confirmation hearing for him,
that was a game changer.
Was a game changer. I think it was a defining moment for him and his relationship with this president,
with people that I think he thought originally and for possibly many, many years were his actual friends.
Yeah.
And I think it was, as you say, it was a complete eye-opener. Here he is on Hannity. Again, Lindsey Graham has changed.
Earlier tonight, during the State of the Union address, the president announced a second meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. It'll be in Vietnam. Let's take a look.
As part of a bold new diplomacy, we continue our historic push for peace.
Okay, I'm going to go through this.
Chairman Kim and I will meet again on February 27th.
Because Lindsey's coming up here in
28th
just a second.
in Vietnam.
So I hope you don't mind that I fast forward.
Joining us now with more, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. I was at the first summit in Singapore.
Right.
15 months, no rockets fired. The remains of Americans from the 50s have returned. Hostages have been returned. The president has given nothing, and we are talking about the denuclearization of the entire Korean peninsula.
Thank you.
Sounds pretty promising to me and hopeful.
Well, to those people who are criticizing the president, how well did you do with Rocket Man? So, yeah, I'm very hopeful that one meeting, this new meeting, will lead to a breakthrough.
All right. Overall
question is,
speech.
why is he meeting with Trump and he didn't meet with anybody else?
Interesting. Maybe he believes that he's serious.
Tell you what, I think he's scared. Go on. Well, okay, if you want to get this guy's attention, he's not like Iran. Iran's on a religious mission. You know, if they ever get nukes, they'll use them. This guy is trying to have an insurance policy to keep the mafia state going. But if Trump gives him an alternative between life without nuclear weapons that is safe and secure, he'll take it if the other alternative is to lose your life.
The thing that stood out the most, more than anything, that I'm so happy
Why do you
about...
think the Taliban are at the table?
Yeah.
It's a great point.
I know why
I think
you're at the table.
Tell us why.
I've been going there.
You ask your own questions.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I like interviewing me. I've been there 52 times. Why are they talking with us now? Because when the first day he got in office, he told the military to kick their ass. We've been killing these guys by the thousands. We've been breaking their back. And Pakistan, for the very first time in a decade, is beginning to help us on their side of the border because Trump has really unleashed the military. They're at the table now because of the change in the rules of engagement after Obama left, Trump came in, and they're at the table. And we may be able to win this in this war if Pakistan will help us. And I predict that the Prime Minister of Pakistan and President Trump are going to get along very well.
I think that sums it up.
One of the best State of the Union speeches I've seen. Folks, if you haven't, don't just listen to it like Clint says. Watch it.
Look, so
Watch
I'm gonna talk about the closing.
Yes, you should,
because we're gonna be running out of time here.
Take it, sir.
This, and I'm gonna read you the text. I have the text of the closing up, and I can read you the words. I'm not gonna do it justice, because when Trump was saying these words, at the risk of sounding corny, I literally had goosebumps. And I could only imagine, and if you get a chance to rewatch the speech, I recommend you rewatch the speech, particularly the close. And there's times where the camera pans out, and it goes to the faces of the legislators. And as he's saying these words, and I'm going to read them to you what they are. As he's saying these words, take a look at the faces of every single member that you see. Some of them are actually captivated by this on both sides of the aisle. Some of them, there's a couple of them that are doodling on a scratch on a piece of paper or looking down or whatever it is. But I think that as he's saying these words, he really strikes at the heart of what Congress is supposed to be. And I think that you can get a sense from those that are truly engaged on the words he's saying,
and that's important
who are truly there to serve, and who are really taking these words to heart. And what Trump said is, he said this, and he's talking about the things America accomplished, particularly World War II, and that's why World War II was a theme there, because it talked about what Americans before us have accomplished. And what he says in closing, he says, think of this Capitol. Think of this very chamber, where lawmakers before you voted to end slavery, to build the railroads and the highways, to defeat fascism, to secure civil rights, to face down an evil empire. Here tonight we have legislators from across this magnificent republic, and he called it a republic. You have come from the rocky shores of Maine and the volcanic peaks of Hawaii, from the snowy woods of Wisconsin and the red deserts of Arizona, from the green farms of Kentucky and the golden beaches of California. Together we represent the most extraordinary nation in all of history. What do we do with this moment? How will we be remembered? I ask the men and women of this Congress, look at the opportunities before us. Our most thrilling achievements are still ahead. Our most exciting journeys still await. Our biggest victories are still to come. We have not yet begun to dream. We must decide whether we are defined by our differences or whether we dare to transcend them. We must choose whether we squander our inheritance or whether we proudly declare that we are Americans. We do the incredible. We defy the impossible. We conquer the unknown. This is the time to reignite the American imagination. This is the time to search for the tallest summit, to set our sights on the brightest star. This is the time to rekindle the bonds of love and loyalty and memory that link us together as citizens, as neighbors, as patriots. This is our future, our fate and our choice to make. I'm asking you to choose greatness. No matter the trials we face, no matter the challenges to come, we must go forward together. We must keep America first in our hearts. We must keep freedom alive in our souls. And we must always keep faith in America's destiny, that one nation under God must be the hope and the promise and the light and the glory among all the nations of the world. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America, and good night. That to me was one of the most powerful things, and the way he put it and the way he framed that statement and everything leading up to that statement was just, it was one of those things that absolutely it struck me.
It's positive
on multiple levels.
It's uplifting.
It is.
It's American.
But it directly challenged them and put the question to them. Hey, people in this chamber where we're sitting right now accomplished great things. Men and women, men just like you, sat in these very same seats, just like you're sitting, and ended slavery, built the railroads and highways, did great things, civil rights. He talked about truly American things.
Yes.
Things that were done, some of the greatest things accomplished in history. You're talking about ending slavery and the civil rights movement, industry such as railroad. And hey, people just like you in those same chairs did it right here. How is history going to remember you? And that's a question that when people are looking out across the room, you can see the look on some of their faces like, oh shit, how is history going to remember me? And I think that struck home to some Republicans and some Democrats. How many, I don't know. And maybe it was just a fleeting strike. But what he did there is he challenged them to be greater than the predecessors who ended slavery, who had the civil rights legislation, who started the railroad. And he challenged them to be better. And it wasn't an adversarial challenge.
No, it wasn't. It was still crafted I think, in a very positive fashion.
Yeah, and not only in a positive fashion, but one that really should go to the heart of service and why they're there. Donald Trump doesn't get a salary for being president of the United States.
No, as a matter of fact, he gives it to a different group of people every quarter.
I think he donates to other parts of the executive branch,
yes,
right?
Every quarter.
So Donald Trump is there because he wants to serve. And I think that whatever you say about the man's personality, his heart is 100% in the right place because he doesn't need the money or the job. He's there to serve.
Or the bullshit.
And he challenged every single one of those people in that room to do better than their predecessors and what was so great that was accomplished in that room. That to me was the high. And I don't hear that talked about. And maybe it's because we as Americans don't talk that way anymore. Maybe because it's not cool to talk about service, and it's not cool to talk about duty, and it's not cool to talk about accomplishing truly great things and meaning it. But how is that not the talk of some of these shows? I mean, yeah, there was some substance and some policy stuff that people were talking about, but that challenge to Congress to do better than what was accomplished in that room before then, that to me was the most powerful moment of the night.
And timely. Let me throw this out there too, and then I've got a final about a minute audio cut that I'd like to play. Take that completely out of context. Let's forget that was February of 2019, and let's just have you read those words in isolation. Could those words not have been spoken or written by Ronald Reagan?
Oh, of course. But as Dave just pointed out in the chat room, he just think he gave part of Lincoln's last best hope address.
We are the last best hope of the rest of the planet. As everyone should know, if the United States falls, so goes the rest of the planet. Which I think is critical, and not nearly enough people realize or acknowledge. I know we're going to be a little bit long. I want to play this.
Oh, bonus content.
Yes, bonus content, because everybody realizes that Trump is Hitler and he's absolutely despised.
But he can't be Hitler because he loves the Jewish people and he just move
Well.
the. Oh,
well,
I talked about that
this,
earlier.
this is how he entered the room.
The President of the United States!
Clearly a Nazi.
Right.
Clearly hated
Yes.
by everyone. By people that are lining up
Yes.
to shake his hand. That the sergeants...
Oh, wait, somebody just told him, God bless you.
Yep. That the sergeants...
How can that be?
The sergeants at arms have to clear a path down the walkway so that he can get through. This is a hated individual, clearly. Hey, my man! And it went, and it went, and it went, just like that. In summary, without a doubt, that is one of the best State of the Union speeches I've ever heard.
I rewatched it a second time.
I'm going to do it again. Actually, when I get through and I try to put the rest of this show together to, pump it out on social media, while I'm doing that, I'm going to listen to it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed.
And when you do, watch the faces when at that closing when he's talking about that. Just watch everybody in the room and see who's doing what and who reacts.
I think
how.
that's obviously a very excellent point. I think we had a hell of a show.
I think we had a hell of a show, too.
And I think we made some great points, and I hope everybody was happy being here tonight.
Dave thinks it was one of the best shows in his memory.
And his memory goes back half a century.
That's what he's.
What a great guy that Dave Milner is. So thanks to Capitalist Scum in chat, Dave, Kaiser in chat, the Alaskan in chat, and thousands of other people who were listening here tonight.
And one viewer.
That just didn't feel like chatting. Sackheads Clint, Sackheads BZ. We're going to be here next Wednesday. I'm going to be here. You going to be here?
I will be here.
Okay. Tomorrow night, it's going to be BZ. And Sackhead Sean is going to be here. So
is he really?
Yeah, come back for the bloviating Zeppelins Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show tomorrow night. Thanks for being here tonight, folks, from Sackhead's Clint. Over there.
Over and Sackhead BZ over there.
Yep. God bless.
And tomorrow,
take care.
Sackhead Sean.
That's right. Be safe, folks. Good night.
Good night.